Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Objection.
Mr. Speaker, on Inauguration Day of 2021, our borders were secure. The Trump Remain in Mexico policy had cut phony asylum claims to a trickle. The border wall was nearing completion. Court-ordered deportations were being enforced. But by the end of that day, President Biden had reversed these policies and thus began the greatest illegal mass migration in history. Since that day, he's allowed 6.9 million illegal migrants to enter our country and demand free food, free clothing, free legal assistance, free education, free shelter, free lodging, free phones, and free cash, except, of course, it's not the least bit free. It all comes out of the earnings of American families and out of the services that we set aside for Americans in need. Unlike legal immigrants who obey our laws and do everything our country asks of them, the first act of these 6.9 million aliens who have illegally entered our country is to commit a federal crime. I have watched them personally taunt our Border Patrol at the border as they do so. Woke cities and states have passed sanctuary laws that forbid our law enforcement officials to turn over illegal aliens who have committed other crimes to ICE for deportation as the law requires. This administration has made these policies national by refusing to enforce over 1 million court-ordered deportations. It shouldn't surprise us that many who are willing to violate our immigration laws are also willing to violate the rest of our laws as well. The number of terrorist suspects that the Border Patrol has encountered has ballooned exponentially, and law enforcement officials are warning that among the 1.9 million gotaways, mostly single, military-aged men, is likely a dangerous fifth column which could soon launch devastating attacks within our borders. Fentanyl brought in through the open border is killing hundreds of Americans every day. The Democrats' sanctuary policies hamstring attempts to deport criminal illegal aliens, and worst of all, the admission of untold thousands of the most vicious gang members on the planet is now producing a terrible butcher's bill of murders and assaults on Americans. When the Federation for American Immigration Reform looked at the request by states to be reimbursed for the cost of incarcerating aliens, they found that immigrants are 231% more likely to be jailed for crimes in California, 440% more likely in New Jersey, and 60% more likely in Texas, just to name a few. 231% more likely to be jailed in California, according to their own SCAPE numbers. But you won't find that anywhere else because it's illegal in California to otherwise report the immigration status of criminals and criminal suspects. So by their criteria, not a single crime is committed by illegals in California, yet their jails are overflowing with them. Now, as of last December, there were at least 617,000 aliens on Immigration and Customs Enforcement's non-detained docket who have criminal convictions or pending criminal charges. Yet these dangerous offenders are out on American streets, free to reoffend. This past year, Mr. Biden removed 60% fewer criminal illegal aliens than Trump did in 2019, despite an exponential increase of illegal aliens entering our country. And we are seeing the results every day in murders and assaults on America's streets and in empty chairs at Americans' family dinner tables. Earlier this year, New York City Police Commissioner Edward Cabin declared, quote, "A wave of migrant crime has washed over our city," unquote. He should know because earlier this year, a group of illegal aliens brutally assaulted 2 NYPD officers. New York Mayor Eric Adams described the assault as, quote, "an attack on the foundation of our symbol of safety," unquote. He then called on the City Council to consider if there should be more collaboration with federal immigration officials. Well, I suppose better late than never. Now, the bill before us today, H.R. 8146, the Police Our Borders Act, requires the Attorney General to submit a report to Congress on the impact of the Biden border policies on law enforcement officers. This report will document officer safety concerns that are linked to increased cross-border movement, such as fentanyl exposure and assaults on law enforcement officers. The report will also examine the overall burden of this unfolding tragedy on law enforcement capabilities and officer morale. Our men and women in blue continue to protect our communities even when our communities don't fully support them. Well, we owe them better as a nation. And with this measure, we declare our determination to recognize and document the threats they face so that we can enact measures to make it harder for a president to ever again unleash these threats upon the American people. I'd urge my colleagues to support the bill and reserve the balance of my time.